Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Glue Glue podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Quinn, and joining me again today is my regular co-host, Chris Nugent. How's it going, Chris?
Yes, Kyle, and things aren't too bad. Things aren't too bad. I'm not sure how good they are at Man United, but we'll get into that. But yep, good to be here as always and have a chat, mate.
Not the circumstances in which I wanted to be doing this podcast this evening, after the Brighton game at Old Trafford. It's just more of the same, really. Same players and same old feelings. You know, I think Ten Hag said himself in a previous interview that a coach isn't a musician, and when he's working with the same squad from last season, largely we've only made three signings and only two of them started today. Um, you're just gonna see the same results. Roy Keane has said for several seasons now that these players will continue to throw the manager under the bus. He says they've done it to Mourinho, they'll do it to Ole, and now done it to Ranić, and they'll do the same to Ten Hag. He needs to phase, you know, much more of the squad out and start replacing them. Um, Ranić said we needed 10 players. He's absolutely right about that. I think that got him the sack for saying that. Um, and we've only signed three players, and it hasn't made much of an impact. The same old feelings today. The fullbacks were a disaster. Dallo and Luke Shaw. Uh, it's just not a surprise really at all. Luke Shaw just continuing on his form from last season. Dallo, as we know, is a very limited defender. He can be good at times going forward, but even then he's been hit and miss. And McFred in midfield, just simply not good enough. We're now entering a fifth season of McTominay and Fred, and I think the fans have just had enough now. I mean, today is as bad as I've seen them for quite a while, and that's saying something. They were absolutely diabolical. So, what was your
Dreadful,
thoughts on the game then, Chris?
absolutely dreadful, Kyle. Absolutely dreadful, like you said at the start of the game. With a couple of chances, I think it was Bruno had a chance where he skied over the bar, which was uncharacteristic of him, and I have to say, looking back on it, it was a pretty bad miss, to be honest, and I hit the target. I mean, he really should have hit the target from there. But that was the high point. At that point, I thought, okay, we'll get more chances. Brighton looked kind of open, and we'll get more chances, and we're bound to score eventually, even though we were playing without a kind of a night striker. But it just went from bad to worse. And like you said, McTominay and Fred were absolutely abysmal. I think it was Brighton's first goal, or maybe the second goal, I can't quite remember, where the guy just ghosted in behind Fred, and Fred actually looked over the opposite shoulder. He looked over his right shoulder, and the man was over his left shoulder. And then all of a sudden, he was really shocked whenever the guy appeared behind him and popped it in. I mean, it literally, like I've literally watched and played in games where people would be roasted at amateur level for making that sort of stupid mistake, and to be somebody to do that at that level, and it's not like the guy made a really crafty run to get there. I mean, he was literally right behind him. Fred just was too lax, didn't bother to look over his left shoulder. I mean, that is just unforgivable. As Roy Keane said after the match, you're never going to win trophies with those two guys if you can't do the absolute basic of basics, and you don't have a chance. You don't have a chance. So no, it was abysmal, absolutely abysmal, to be honest.
Yeah, we've seen something what we've seen maybe a couple of dozen times before, where De Gea plays the ball to Fred while Fred's on the edge of the area. Fred then just panics and plays the ball out to the right, gives it away to Brighton, and it nearly leads to a chance. How many times have we seen that? You
You
know,
know,
I never want to see Fred or De Gea play the ball to Fred, but if Fred's not capable of receiving the ball from his goalkeeper, then he shouldn't be in the team. It's
it's
just
shocking. Like, I was honestly shocked when I saw them two in the team sheet, because the way we rotated, when the players that played during pre-season and Ten Hag was trying all different formations, different players, I thought to myself, he's bound to have looked at those two and went, well, these two aren't two I really want to be starting. Let's try a few things and find something else. And then to go back to the same old in the first day of the season, I was going, did he not watch? Has he not watched these guys at all last year? Did he not watch them in pre-season? Has he not seen anything that the rest of us have been watching? You're right. I mean, Fred is just abysmal. Gives the ball away every time. And McTominay, I don't know. McTominay's weird. There's times McTominay goes in hard, and I think it's kind of Roy Keane-esque, and you go, okay, he plays on the edge, but you can kind of accept that. But he hasn't got the football to back it up. And half the time when he goes in, I think it was his yellow card he got. He lunged into the guy, almost broke his leg, because he lost the ball because he wasn't good enough to be able to control the ball, and then he nearly goes and breaks somebody's leg. I mean, that goes beyond being, oh, that's great to see a hard tackle. That goes to the point where you're going, just making a fool of yourself. You know what I mean? You can't control the ball, and you're going to go out and wreck people over the head of it. That's just
Yeah.
nah.
He
It's
should
just
have been
not.
sent off,
It's not good enough. Yeah, not good
and
enough.
somebody on Twitter said it would have done us a favor had he been sent off there. I mean, that's how
100%.
bad he was.
He deserved it. Like, I mean, it was blatant. He lost the ball and he just absolutely went through the guy high. Could have broke his leg, and no Man United fan could have had any sympathy. And you just nah. There's times whenever you're playing on the edge, and there's times whenever you're just making it of yourself. And I just thought he made a fool of himself there, to be honest.
That particular incident summed McTominay up in a nutshell. He received the ball just outside Brighton's penalty area. He took 6 touches, and then he lost control of it. And then the 7th touch was a horror tackle.
Yeah, 100%.
And we often say that about Fred and McTominay. Their second touch is always a tackle, and that's a sign of a very poor midfielder.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And like I say, everybody loves a good combative midfielder. We've had plenty of them. You love them. But combative midfielder, whenever they're up against somebody who's good on the ball and they're trying to rough them up, but not because you've just lost the ball with your previous touch, that you then have to go be combative to get it back. I mean, that just means you can't do the basics again, like I said.
And they were both substituted. I think the first 2 players to be taken off in the game. That's not a surprise. For me, I don't want to see. I certainly don't want to see that partnership again. And if in an ideal world, I don't want to see either of them play for Man United again. But I know, because there's so many fires to put out around the pitch, that we can't replace everybody this summer. So we're probably going to see more of them. But it just shows that it's absolutely urgent now that we sign a center mid. I hope Frankie de Jong was not watching this game. I really hope to God, because he won't be coming anywhere near Old Trafford if he was.
No, well, this is the thing. He might be thinking himself, I'll definitely start over one of those guys, but then he'd be going, but then that means I have to play alongside the other one. Then he'd be going, I don't think I fancy that. And that could be the problem.
Yeah, I don't think too many world class players will fancy rocking up at Old Trafford and playing in the Europa League and losing home games to Brighton. It's demoralising. I mean, Brentford away next Saturday is going to be a challenging fixture as well. They came back from 2-0 down to draw against Leicester today. And at home with the raucous crowd there, they can be a difficult team to beat. They've got some very good players, fantastic coach. So that certainly won't be an easy game either. And then wait for this. Our next home game is Liverpool. Based on what I saw today, it could be 5 or 6-0 again.
Yeah, there's no reason why not. If we play like that, absolutely. I mean, if you give Brighton that kind of space and they don't have a Salah or a Firmino or any players of that caliber in the team, and they're able to punish us, then players like Salah and Firmino, etc., and Thiago will absolutely rip us to pieces. But yeah, the usual. It's a cup final. We'll probably raise our game. Blah 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 blah. But that's not good enough. It could just be a destruction. It's not good at all.
And I'm just having flashbacks there to how horrendous Luke Shaw was in that game against Liverpool last season at Old Trafford, and there again today, he fails to stop the shot that lead to the second goal. Again and again and again, he stands 5 yards off his man and lets the cross come in. I've just seen enough of him now. He said 8 years at Old Trafford, and he said 1 good season. I think time's up for me. I think I was very, very surprised that actually Malasia didn't start the game, but I hope he starts the next one. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. Whenever he did come on, I thought that's great to see him coming on. He come on a wee bit too late. Yeah, that thing you're talking about, Kyle, about him standing off his man. Again, I watched that all day today. I've talked about before about us always looking lax and balls being played behind the man and people not enough urgency. And I've seen it again today, and I just cannot understand it. It makes me think that some of the players we have actually think that they're so good they don't need to give 100%. It's as if I've got ability, I've got this under control. I don't need to worry about that guy coming behind me because I play for Man United and he only plays for Brighton, so I don't need to worry about him. I mean, I watched that again today. Fred, as I say, showed it with that goal. Shaw did it all the time, and other players as well. And I just can't understand it. They're not good enough. they have to put 100% effort has to be the absolute minimum. But for some reason, some guys at Man United right now think they don't have to give 100% effort. And yeah, Shaw's one of them, and Fred's another one. I can't get my head around it.
Yeah, and they didn't seem to have any belief when they went 2-0 down. It's not what we associate with Manchester United, but it is what we associate with the current team. They just appeared to give up, really. They slightly improved when Ronaldo came on and Ericsson moved further back. The experiment to put Ericsson as like a false nine didn't really work. But when he's able to play deeper and pull the strings, and you have a target man like Ronaldo in the middle, you did see a slight improvement. Um, One frustration uh, about an incident that involved Ronaldo was that he created a chance for Marcus Rashford. Rashford 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, and we knew what happens every time Rashford's 1-on-1. The goalkeeper saves it or he puts it wide, and that's what happened. I wish it had been Rashford playing the ball across the penalty area to Ronaldo, and it might have been a goal. But Rashford again, I think it was a wonderful cross from the right hand side by Christian Eriksen to Rashford at the back post, and again he failed to make a meaningful connection with the ball, and I think it went wide of the post. Again, a very, very underwhelming display from Marcus Rashford, and very lucky to be in the starting 11. So it's very worrying. He's been out of form for must be 2 years now. So I really don't know where his career's going as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think what concerned me about that was the fact that I can see why Ronaldo wasn't in the team today, and I think most fans would have agreed that he shouldn't have been in the team. I think we all feel a wee bit aggrieved with him at the minute, and we're totally. I was on board with that when I see it as a start. I thought, yep, that's proper order. You can't disrespect the club, etc., and start. So that was right. But the fact that we couldn't then muster up somebody to replace him really does show how badly things are at the minute. That you couldn't rely on Marcus Rashford, either because of what you just described, Kyle, that he's missing these easy chances, or because he himself refuses to play in the middle because he has to play on the left because that's what he wants or whatever it is. And I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe maybe Alanga was injured or something today, but why did Alanga not? The fact that we play with Ericsson up front rather than actually having another striker in there, and Ericsson playing where he eventually ended up, which was kind of the no-brainer position for him anyway. Worries me. But like you described there, I would have said Rashford, put him in there. That's who should go there. But the fact that he missed those chances shows the reason why actually that wouldn't have been any good anyway. And that's pretty concerning. I mean, a player with his talent and who was a striker at one point, he should be able to slot in there and say, look, today, son, you're playing up front because Cristiano's not playing. You're going to play there. And if you get a chance, I need you to take it. I mean, he should be able to step up, do a job and say, okay, that's my job for today. That's fine. I'll do that. But no, and that's concerning in itself.
Yeah, and he posts all these gym videos in pre-season about how hard he's working and all, and how hard the fitness work he does even when he's on holiday. But as soon as he gets on the pitch in a meaningful game, he doesn't do it. And so it's
All
very,
right,
very
being fit.
frustrating.
Well, every player in the Premier League's fit, but maybe he should be working more on his shooting and less on his fitness. You know what I mean? Because it's hitting the target that he needs to do more of and making the right decisions. That's what he needs to do. Being fit, that's the minimum.
Roy Keane even alluded to it earlier. I think he said the noises coming out from the United camp is that they're much fitter now, and he's like, "Bravo!" I mean, that's the absolute minimum requirement of any athlete to be fit. Now that's seen as an achievement. Now it's absolutely embarrassing.
Yeah. Like I said, that is the absolute minimum. Being fit should be a given. You should never be unfit at that level, and then the rest is what wins you the games. But the fact that, like you say, it's an achievement just to be fit shows how far we have really, really fallen.
Yeah, and another object displayed by Bruno Fernandes, just wastefully giving the ball away time and time again. And then he had a great opportunity to open the scoring, and he scooped it over the bar. And that could have been a different game if that goes in. It would have given the team confidence. Once seeing the noise levels go up in the stadium, and would have give everyone a lift. There would have been 1-0 up, and we might have even won the game. But he failed to convert his chance. And just another very frustrating display. Another person who's been woefully out of form for a very long time now. So yeah, him and Rashford are in the same boat, really, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to what I said earlier and what I keep banging on about really know. It's a lack of urgency. It's like he's a few yards out. Absolutely take the net clean off. Absolutely welly it with everything you've got. Make sure it goes in. But it's this lean back, a little bit lax, you know what I mean, and try and stroke it in. It's like just absolutely go through the ball, put it in the back of the net. it's far too slow and lax, and not quite that urgency, precision, and that's just through the team. And it was the same last year, and today it was all over the place. And that you're not going to win games that level unless you are on it, you're precise, you're accurate, you're putting 100% effort in. It's just, yeah, again, I just think he's only got himself to blame. He should have buried that. He should at least hit the target. Yeah, I mean, sometimes maybe the ball comes in quick, it bobbles a bit. Yeah, okay, maybe that happened. Who knows? But a player of his standard should really be hitting the target from there.
Okay, guys, before we continue, please comment your thoughts. Also, please like the video and subscribe to the podcast. So not many positives today, not many great performances. I think Ericsson and Sancho were good in moments, but they weren't on the ball often enough. But probably amazingly the best two players for United on the day with the centre backs. I thought Harry Maguire had a really good game actually. I never expected that to be the case. But you're in trouble if Harry Maguire is your best player. It's been a bad day. Unless it's a game away to Manchester City or Liverpool, you don't want Harry Maguire to be the best player on the pitch. And I thought it was a decent enough debut from Martinez. He looks very good on the ball, although there was one incident where he's very lucky not to give away a penalty kick. It was a bit of a rush of blood to the head, Marcus Rojo type tackle. People were calling him Lissandro Rojo online after that tackle. Don't know how VAR didn't give a penalty there, and that could have been 3-0 to Brighton. But yeah, he looks like a very, very good footballer. Yeah, he's definitely, his distribution is fantastic. He had a rasping effort, I think, in the second half as well. It just narrowly over the crossbar that he nearly took the net off there. And I imagine he will at some point. But yeah, positive signs for Maguire and Martinez. Maguire said in his post-match interview that we've never played together before, we don't know each other. As if he was making excuses for the performance. But I actually thought that them two were United's two best players on the day. So if once they develop an understanding, then maybe they'll get even better. But yeah, that's a very slight positive, but a positive nonetheless.
Definitely a positive nonetheless. No, I totally agree with you. I think, yeah, they both played quite well, and actually, in a way, naturally, they should complement each other. Maguire is not the paciest, but he's big. He's good in the air, etc. Martinez is not that big. Not obviously going to be a massive aerial threat, but excellent on the ground, quick, reads the game really well, great with the ball at his feet. The polar opposite of Maguire, and actually, that's in a way that should be the perfect partnership. One complements the other. So yeah, if they can develop a kind of an understanding, they could do really well. Yeah, I was really impressed with Martinez. As you say, Kai, there was that one incident where he went through the back of the guy. I can only think that the only reason, if you were to pick anything out of it that maybe VAR saw or didn't see, is that maybe they thought the guy went over a bit too easily or something. But I mean, he did put his hand right on him and go through him. So I mean, it really probably should have been a penalty. And then I think he got booked earlier on for a bit of a cynical one when he got caught up between two players, and he kind of just he took one for the team really. So yeah, no, he looks a real player. He looked really bright. Thought he was good. And like to say, compliment Maguire. Maguire had a pretty decent game as a result. So, yep, maybe a wee bit more of that in the future will be positive.
So it seems to be a recurring theme with every manager at United these days, where they're very slow to make substitutions. Given how bad they were in the first half, like we just witnessed, this is Manchester United against Brighton at Old Trafford. Brighton have 12 shots on goal and United have 4. So, and that sums up just how poor United were in the first half. And obviously, we were obviously losing at halftime, weren't we? Was it 1-0 or 2-0 at halftime? Not sure.
That's a
I
question.
think was it 2-0.
I think it might have
But
been two. Yeah, I think it was ready to.
either way, we were shocking in the first half. In particular, yeah, it was 2-0 at halftime. Eventually he brought on Ronaldo for Fred, and then I think he brought on Van der Beek for McTominay, and then he made 3 substitutions in the 90th minute. Garnacho, Alanga, and Malasai coming on, not really giving them much time to have an impact there. If it was me, I'd have made at least 2 subs at half time. You have to bring Ronaldo on, even in the circumstances. But I also would have brought on Garnacho for Rashford, because I mean Rashford is horrendous. Garnacho couldn't do any worse, and we know that Garnacho is very direct. He's going to make try to make things happen. So yeah, we would have given him more than 5 minutes. Donny, I thought, was decent when he came on. He was involved in some good stuff, some good layoffs and stuff for his teammates. But again, he was only given about 14 minutes plus stoppage time. So yeah, he didn't make a second substitution till the 77th minute. In a game where United were playing so poorly, I was surprised at that. Were you?
Yeah, I was. I was. I mean, like you said. I mean, I kind of thought that there would be a change at halftime. It was obvious that the kind of the Ericsson false nine experiment wasn't really working. And yeah, despite all our frustrations with Ronaldo, it was a no brainer really because we didn't have a striker at all to bring on a striker, and Ericsson was obviously going to slot more naturally into that. Centre midfield role. And considering how bad Fred and McTominay were doing, you wanted to get one of them off. So it seemed like a no-brainer to take one of them off, put slot Ericsson in there, who was obviously going to be an upgrade on either one of them, and have a striker on, Ronaldo or Alanga or whoever. But Ronaldo was the natural choice, of course. So yeah, I was surprised. I kind of thought being 2-0 down at halftime, really need a goal, and a goal actually straight after halftime would have been great. You know that happen. We see that happen all the time in games. A team comes out losing 2-0 or 1-0 at halftime, they get a goal really quick. And then that gives them the impetus. Then they go and say, okay, we now have a chance here. So yeah, I think he should have brought on. I think he should have really made that change at halftime, and then coming in the second half, if Ronaldo had managed to snatch one quick, all of a sudden it's 2-1. You're thinking, okay, game on now. We've got nearly a whole half to get 2 goals and go win it, or even just 1 goal and get a draw. So yeah, I was surprised they left it so late. I'm not sure why that was, but yeah, I thought it was a bit too late.
Yeah, and even our goal on the day was a scrappy own goal. I think this is another damning stat. Before that own goal, the last 6 goals in games between Brighton and Man United have all been Brighton goals. So that's the 4-0 defeat in May and the 2-1 defeat today. 6 goals in a row Brighton scored against us until they scored an own goal. Well, you could say it is 7 Brighton goals because even our goal was scored by a Brighton player. So it's just would have been unthinkable under previous uh,
Yeah,
regimes like Ferguson. Obviously, I just
if you
cannot believe this.
No, it's really poor, Kyle. But if you look at it in some ways now, I think it's actually not a surprise. Graham Potter knows how to play against Man United. He knows that if you park the bus against us, we can't break it down, and he knows that if you can hit us where we're vulnerable in certain positions, fullback particularly, etc., and often in the past even centre back. If you hit us fast and hard on the break, you've always got a chance of getting a goal, which is what happened today. Get a break, get a goal, sit back, just sit there. We're
Yeah,
never going to break it through in a million years,
yeah.
and that's what happened. And he knows that's how you can play against us and get a result.
And Cicero in the center of the park dominated again. Not that he was playing against much. Let's be fair. Um,
Yeah,
and the goal scorer, Pascal Gross, he got both goals today. This is another amazing stat. He has scored against Manchester United while Mourinho was manager, Solskjaer is manager, Ranić is manager, and now Ten Hag is manager. This guy has scored against all 4 managers against Manchester United.
so
So it's a
it's not
player
a
who's getting a
shock.
lot of joy against us.
It's not a shock, and again, it tells me that they know how to do it. He knows what positions to be in and what situations, and Graham Potter knows how to win games against us. It's definitely not a coincidence. That guy keeps scoring. He knows where to be, when to be in the right positions. They know what our weaknesses are, and they're able to exploit them. And Ten Hag is unfortunately got the job. But he's going to have to also recognize those weaknesses if he hasn't already, and he's going to have to find ways to plug those gaps because. Yeah, other teams. If Brighton can do it on a consistent basis, other teams will be able to as well, and that's not good news.
Yeah, and not a single new signing was playing for Brighton today. If anything, their team has got weaker due to selling players to Chelsea and City, I think. Um, so yeah, or no, Tottenham. Sorry, they've sold players to Tottenham and Chelsea, key players, and yet they were still able to dominate us at Old Trafford with a weaker 11 than they had last season. So it's just humiliating. It really, really is. I know they're a half decent Premier League outfit. They're probably among the top 8 teams in the league, but it's Manchester United Old Trafford we're talking about. You know, we can't just like say, "Oh, Brighton are a good team." It's not. it's not an embarrassment to lose to Brighton. Yes, it is, because we expect a lot better than this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was supposed, like I say, yes, you can't take anything away from Brighton. Brighton are a good side. I remember, I think they beat Spurs at the end of last season. They're a good team. Graham Potter's a good manager. They're well organized. They've got great tactics. They work really hard to put teams under pressure. They absolutely deserve to win every single bit of it. But the fact is that Manchester United at home should be giving them a lot more of a game than what we did. I mean, we should have had some good chances. We should be really putting them under pressure, but it wasn't even close. I mean, it was simple, 2-0, sit back. We didn't have a sniff. Any chance we did have were completely blunt, hitting it straight at the goalkeeper, like you said, with Rashford. And yeah, it really wasn't even close. I mean, they won the game pretty comfortably at the end of it all. And that's the saddest part of it, or that's kind of the worst news of all. It's not that they won the game, it's the nature and in how they won it. Was nearly the worst thing.
Well, the good thing is that Ten Hag is now seen firsthand just how unreliable this squad is. You know, and Mr. Glazer was also there today, as was the CEO Richard Arnold. So no one who was sitting there watching that on the bench or in the stands could say, "Oh, that we've got a great team. We don't need to sign anyone." They got to see just how bad we really are and how urgent it is to get players in, right now. So I suppose that's the one saving grace.
100%, absolutely. I mean, when Ten Hag started, I remember thinking, and I don't know if I said on the podcast or not, that even a manager who's been successful elsewhere, you never managed the Premier League, you can't really witness what exactly the challenges are going to be until you actually start testing your squad and your tactics in actual games. And I mean, today, I'm sure he got a rude awakening and realized what he maybe thought was going to be a side that was going to probably win that game or have a good chance. And he will now see just how far off the pace they are, whether that was tactically or personally from the players' efforts or all of the above. He will now realize, if he hadn't already realized, the job that he has got to do is a big one. And that today will have absolutely solidified that in his mind. The one thing is, I like the look of his personality. I like the look of his determination, and I can only imagine that he just see it as a challenge, and that's what we need, because yeah, it's a big job, and it has to be somebody who wants that job and wants to take that challenge on. So hopefully it'll just be a kind of a motivation for him. But 100%, Kyle, today I think he'd be looking and thinking, this is there's a lot of work to be done here. A lot of work.
Oh, oh, big time. So let's get on to our first player ratings of the season. This is going to be fun. So David De Gea, I'll go with a 5. Dallo, a 3. I think Maguire, a 6. Martinez, a 6. Shaw, another 3, I'm afraid. Scott McTominay, a 1. I think Fred, a 1. Bruno Fernandez, a 3. Jane Sancho, a 5. Christian Eriksen, a 6. And Marcus Rashford, a 3. Um, and Ronaldo, who came on, I think I'll give him a 6 for his cameo. And also Van der Beek, I'll give him a 6 for his 19 minutes or whatever it was, and the rest of them didn't only play in stoppage time, so can't really give them rating. So yeah, it's a fairly simple rundown there of the ratings. It wasn't very hard because most of them were rubbish. So any disagreements from yourself then, Chris?
None at all, Kyle. Not a single one. I totally agree with you. I think everybody you named there that played reasonable. Sancho, Ericsson, De Gea, and the two centre backs were about the only people who played reasonably well. Everybody else, a lot to be desired. So, yep, no, I wouldn't disagree with anything. I have to say, not one.
Yeah, hugely disappointing afternoon. I know we were joking before the game about how long will it take for the new season optimism to be drained from us? And I thought it wouldn't be today. It wouldn't be today. It'll be the Liverpool game or something like that. I didn't think it right from the off would be the optimism would be sucked and drained out of us, but that's exactly what transpired today.
I mean, it literally, when you think about it, was sat within minutes, not even hours or days or weeks, minutes, within minutes. I mean, that's even by recent United, squad standards, that's got to be some kind of a record. For the optimism to go in that space of time, it was just poor, really, really, really poor.
So just to cheer everyone up, Erling Haaland got off to a flyer for Manchester City, scoring twice on his debut against West Ham. And Darwin Núñez, who Ten Hag wanted, scored for Liverpool yesterday, even though they only drew with Fulham. Um, so yeah, we're already behind Manchester City anyway. And I think the gap is going to widen. To be honest with you, we'll be lucky to get into the top four this season. We're going to have to displace, like I said earlier, we're going to displace someone like Chelsea or Tottenham to get in the top four. Ain't happening, um, unless we can make some very astute signings between now and the end of August, and Ten Hag can get us playing a lot better than this. We're just not going to be in that race. We're going to be fighting it out with the teams who are vying for a spot in the second rate competitions once again, I'm afraid. But like I say, we have to be patient with the manager. The only thing is that the Adidas money is going to be cut by like 25% if we fail to make the Champions League at the end of the season. So it'll be interesting to see what the owners will make of that. And they obviously, that's what they care about. One of them was there today. They're going to be hugely worried now about making top four this season. And hopefully, from a fan perspective, that's going to push them to go out and get someone like Frankie De Jong on the striker as quickly as possible, because both us and the owners don't want us to finish outside the top four for different reasons. But yeah, we both have the same goal in mind, I suppose, in a sense. So yeah, like I said earlier, the the board, we're all there to witness that absolute shambolic display, and they know that the urgent surgery is needed on the squad sooner rather than later. Um, if they have to go and pay De Jong's deferred wages themselves, Manchester United, do it. We need to. We're desperate. Everyone knows we're desperate. There's no point in trying to hide it. Let's go and get these deals done by any means possible.
100%, 100%. What was it Rania called it? We need open heart surgery. I mean,
Yeah.
open heart surgery doesn't say to me you need a couple of players. It means the squad needs gutted, virtually start from scratch. You've got a couple of decent players, and bar that, you need to basically revamp the whole thing. And have we done that? Not even remotely close. So you're absolutely right, Kyle. It reeks of desperation because we are desperate. Everybody knows it. It's on the pitch for all to see. We're nowhere near good enough. If we've anywhere, like you say, fans have ambitions of winning leagues and Champions Leagues, or the very least being in the Champions League. The owners and shareholders have ambitions of being in the Champions League for purely financial reasons. But either way, neither of those two things, as you said, are going to happen until we start signing better players and start actually giving Ten Hag what he asks for. If he asks for number one target, we need to go and get his number one target. Get him whoever he wants. Get him De Jong. Get him Anthony. Get him whoever he asks for. Number one targets, not number 2 or 3 or 4, or we'll get him in, he'll do. No, get them the number one targets. We've spent a lot of money in the past. We've had money to spend, but it's been misspent. Let's start spending the money wisely, getting in the people that guy actually wants and needs, and start making things happen.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. There was a very peculiar link to Manchester United just before the game started. In fact, it's more than a link now. Every reliable source is now saying that Manchester United have bidded for this player, and that is Bologna's Marco Arnautovic, who used to play for West Ham
Say
and
that
Stoke
again,
City.
Kyle. Just a wee bit of interference in my headphones there. Say that once again.
Austrian striker Marco Arnautovic has been linked with Manchester United. The 33-year-old Bologna striker who scored 14 Serie A goals last season for the mighty Bologna. And to say the least, the fans online are extremely underwhelmed by this. Um, he is, however, a player that has worked with Eric Ten Hag and Steve McLaren at FC20 previously in his career. So clearly they've identified him as someone who is obviously not their first choice, but someone who can come in and do a job in the short term, given his age at 33. God, Manchester United really do love signing veteran strikers. I mean, how many have we had over the years? Even go back to Henrik Larsson. In more recent times, we've had Falcao, Ronaldo himself, Cavani, Ibrahimovic, and now we're talking about Marco Arnautovic. Yeah, he's a player that has a lot of ability. He just hasn't displayed that often enough. He doesn't. He's not a goal scorer, but he is a big 6'4" centre forward who can hold the ball up, bring others into play, and he is capable of brilliance, although not on a consistent basis. I think one of the things I do like about him is that he's a nasty bastard, and we don't have enough of those at Manchester United. So obviously it's an underwhelming name, but like we said at the start of the summer, whoever Ten Hag wants, we have to go along with it. And I hate this idea of, you know, criticizing a player before he's even pulled on the shirt. We have to give everyone a chance. We're sitting here criticizing McTominay and Fred, but these guys have played like 200 games for United each. You know, we've seen them, and we were able to judge them. We have to give, if Arnautovic comes in this week, we have to give him a chance before we judge him. So I do accept that it's underwhelming, and in a window where Liverpool have signed Darwin Núñez and United or City have signed Erling Haaland, and they're both off the flyer in the Premier League. It's hard to take. Us signing Marko Arnautovic, but that seems to be what's happening. Bologna have rejected United's initial approach, but United are expected to up their bid, and and clearly because he's worked with Ten Hag and McLaren before, it seems as if this is totally their idea. But obviously, he's not the ideal candidate that they would have wanted at the start of the window. Perhaps the plan was not even to sign a striker this summer, given that we've so many other positions to fill, so many fires to put out. Um, but given that Ronaldo is desperate to leave, and Martial tends to get injured all the time, we have to bring someone in. And if the bulk of the money is going to be spent on De Jong and Martinez, for example, then we're going to have to, look at kind of budget options for centre forward and someone who can come in, do a job for a year, and then we'll make the big signing next summer at number 9. So I went off on a complete tangent there. So what is your thoughts on it all then, Chris?
No, I think you've made a very good point there, Kyle. I was gonna disagree with you, and then you said that last bit, and I thought, no, I think you're making a very good point there. That actually, you're right. It probably wasn't giving them their dues. I mean, Gary Neville, and just seeing Sky Sports here, says desperate. It's a pattern. It's happening time and time again, and that is how it feels for most people. But actually, that's a good point. You're right. I don't think that actually United expected Ronaldo to want to leave. We heard that it's because there's no Champions League football, but as we ourselves talked about previously, well, we knew that the day the season ended last season. So how come he's waited till near the end of the transfer window to decide he's going? So I don't think that they expected him to leave. So in fairness to Ten Hag and McLaren and to United in general, they're probably caught on the hop a wee bit with this, which is probably why, yes, it's desperation, but probably desperation because Ronaldo's let them down. So giving them their dues. But yeah, in the positive side will be what you said there, is that this is just going to get us through the next year, and then we'll make the signing of the striker that they probably had planned for future down the line. So that's the positive side. I think it's fair. But in the short term, I can see why people are a bit disillusioned, because you're talking about losing Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best players to ever play the game, and if he's going to be replaced by Marko Arnautovic. But I again agree with you. When I saw him play for West Ham, I always rated him. Thought he's a good player, big guy, like you say, takes no BS, and he's got great ability. But once again, as you said, Kyle, the difference is consistency. The top level players will do it week in, week out. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he will. In fits and spurts, you'll see a world class player, but I can't imagine he's going to come in and score 20 goals in the league this season or anything close. So, yeah, it's underwhelming. But like you said, with a positive spin, it's probably just a bit of a patch because Ronaldo's kind of let us down, and maybe next season then we'll sign a more kind of permanent replacement. So yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be the number one starter all the time anyway. I think he's going to be a squad player. We'll probably start him in certain games, and in other games we'll bring him off the bench with 20 minutes to go. And he's different to, if Ronaldo does leave, then he'll give us something that we don't have, and that's someone who can play with his back to goal and hold the ball up and bring others into play.
100%, 100%. Yep.
We really lacked that in the first half today. Before Ronaldo come on, there was no vocal point. I just can't stand this false nine approach to football. I mean, we're not even going to see Pep Guardiola do it anymore. He's like the false nine merchant. Now they've got Erling. They've got Erling Haaland. We're not going to see that anymore. So I don't want to see us doing it. And I appreciate what Ten Hag said after the game, that Ronaldo had only he'd only been training for just over a week. He's not ready to play 90 minutes in a Premier League game. So I get that. But yeah, Ronaldo could leave before the window is over, and we do need a target man. We need to have that option at least. He's not the name that anyone was on anyone's list, but I'll back him if he comes in, puts himself about, and scores a few goals for United. No, I'll be delighted. I just have a feeling that people are obviously very, very underwhelmed by this, but I have a feeling that he'll exceed expectations. I think he'll do reasonably well. I don't think he's going to come in and score 20 league goals or anything like that, but I think he'll come in, he'll get the fans on side with his work rate, his passion and his sledging of opposition players, and I think he might score an important goal or two. So I think this will work out better than the way people are anticipating.
No,
What do you think?
I think that's fair. No, I mean you give the prime example in recent years, Odi and Nagalo. I mean, we signed Odi and Nagalo, and everybody went, "Who are you serious?" And personally, I thought the guy was great. He every game he gave 120%. Like Arnautovic was great at holding the ball up. He played really well. There wasn't one game where I said that guy needs to be hooked. Every game you knew we were going to get. He wasn't electric pace. He wasn't going to be doing bicycle kicks, but you knew what you're going to get. And I literally have a lot of respect for the fella. And Arnautovic, I think, has a bit more in the locker than that. So yeah, I think that's fair, Kyle. I think if he does come in, he'll do very well. I guess where people are cynical and getting frustrated, it's less at Arnautovic himself. It's more that it reminds us of the approach that United seem to take often of not being organised and desperate. But again, caveating with what we've said there is that they probably just weren't expecting to need a striker because they thought, Martial was going to be there. They thought Ronaldo was going to stay. So I think they've just been caught on the hop, giving them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I hope he does well. A lot to like about him. Yeah, fans will probably love him. He's got a lot of ability. I've seen him score brilliant goals, really brilliant goals. He went that is out of the top drawer. So I mean, he's got a lot of ability. So yeah, I think maybe he could turn out to be a sort of a cult hero.
Yeah, he certainly could be. He's got. He's ain't. I suppose he's one of those players that probably is a scorer of great goals rather than great goal scorer. But
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
he's certainly put himself about as well.
100%.
He's got a very volatile personality, and opposition fans obviously hate players like that. But when you have a player like that on your side, you tend to love them.
100%. Absolutely.
So I could, like I said earlier, I think this could work out better than people are anticipating. You just have to give everyone a chance. Not every player that comes into the club is going to be of your liking. He's also players you're going to assign players who nobody's heard of. Come on, that's even use Solskjaer as an example. When he signed for United, I think even the squad were underwhelmed. Like, who is this young kid in a shirt and jeans? He looks like a student. What's he doing here at Carrington? And then once he started to play ball, then they realized, oh, he is a player. So, sometimes the most underwhelming signings can work out better than the biggest names that you sign. So
Absolutely,
who knows?
100%. Yep. Like I said, I know Gallo didn't say the word light, but I really liked him, and for me, he exceeded expectations. So yep, Arnautovic could do the same. I'm with more ability. So yep.
Yeah, just on Gallo, I thought he done really well in that spell that he had at United in 2020 when he came in January. Unfortunately, only 6 weeks later, the football was shut down completely. And then he didn't really play much after that. Cavani then came in that summer, and he didn't play any more matches. But in that short spell where he was, a backup striker and he was playing in Europa League games, I thought he was fantastic. I mean, there's one goal that really stands out in Linz in Austria. We done that control with left foot, right foot, and then volley in off the underside of the bar. That was unbelievable.
Remember that? That was
I
a
remember
beast.
even Solskjaer's reaction to that. He's all, wow.
I remember that. That was a peach. It was an absolute peach. Yeah, it was. I remember. Yeah, brilliant goal. Yeah, I remember because we all kind of had low expectations of a goal, and everybody was like, any striker would be happy with that goal. It's a like, even Ronaldo would have been happy with that. You know what I mean? Messi would have been happy with that. That's a great goal. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if
it
that
was a
was
peach.
Ronaldo or Messi, we'd be seeing the highlight reels for 100 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great goal. Absolutely great goal. 100%.
Yeah, and it was his dream to play for United. He's a big United fan of Gallo. He even makes that clear even today on
Yeah.
social media. He still walks around in United shirts. Um, yeah, so maybe Arnautovic could be another could do as well or better than Gallo on for a longer period. So yeah, I'm just trying to be positive about it. Obviously everyone online or most people online are being extremely negative about this, but this could work out. This could work out well because nobody's saying he's going to be our number 9 for the next 5 seasons. It's just a stopgap, really, until we make the big signing next summer, hopefully. And maybe that'll be Benjamin Sesko, the Slovenian striker from Salzburg that we're linked with. I think Salzburg's plan is to keep him for another season and then sell him next year. And hopefully by then he scored another 20 or 30 goals for Salzburg. And then we can swoop in May and sign him for maybe £50 million. And he can be the new Holland and things will be rosier again at Old Trafford when we've got a marvellous young number 9 up front. Because eventually we need to sign a striker that we're going to have for 10 years because we're constantly signing veterans up front. We need to start banning someone for the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And no, I mean, we need to start. I mean, like I said earlier, like Ranick said, the squad needs open heart surgery, and that includes probably a recognised striker. Um, Similarly, and probably naively, when I seen a couple of flashes of Martial in preseason, I thought, oh, maybe Martial is going to finally start to realise his potential. But yeah, he's unlucky. I guess he's injured. So maybe he'll come back and with a new lease of life under Ten Hag. Still hopeful about that. But regardless, you would think that we still need to sign a striker eventually. So we're going to have to do that at some stage. Yeah. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah. Big statement by Gary Neville on Sky Sports after the game. He says, the time has come for the Glazer family to sell the football club. The time has come. It's now. Right now. That's
It's
a
big. Didn't know he'd said that. It's quite big.
he's getting stronger and stronger with his statements about. He used to not even talk about the Glazers. He used to just focus on Ed Woodward, but now he's very very open about his opposition to the current ownership of the club. And he's seen that shambolic performance. He's seen us being linked to Arnautovic, and clearly, he's getting emotional. And all his thoughts are coming out on live TV. So I don't blame him for saying that. I mean, there was another protest today, another march, before the game. Yeah, and I totally agree with their sentiments, but you kind of you don't really get anywhere with if you're going to protest and then you buy a ticket to the match. The Glazers don't care. Then you've given them you've already given them the money. The best way to protest is a big empty stadium or a big empty stand on live TV. But fans, because of their emotional attachment to the team, then they won't do that. But yeah, I totally agree with protesting and hopefully the Glazers will even the end. I mean, if we have another disastrous season, right, and the Adidas money gets cut and Team Veer not renewing their contract with the club, the new sponsor deals that they're signing are not as lucrative as they used to be. There's meant to be another global financial crash coming. Glazers rely heavily on credit from American banks. I mean, like when there was a global crash back in 2008, the Glazers then pocketed the 80 million for Ronaldo in 2009. We never saw that money ever again.
Mm.
So they'll have to tighten the purse strings. And how's that going to work when you've got a really really average team who are not even getting into the top four? The share price is going to go down. The value of the club will go down, and it's a real possibility now that the Glazers might have to consider selling up. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's pretty correct. Um, in terms of Gary Neville, yeah, he started to get stronger. I'm not surprised in some ways. I'm actually on the way surprised that you don't hear it more often. It reminds me when I think about it of Alan Shearer. I remember his opposition to Mike Ashley, and he in no uncertain terms he just said all the time, Mike Ashley just needs to leave. There was no kind of diplomacy there, so I'm not saying that the Glazers are maybe seen in quite the light that Mike Ashley was when he owned Newcastle, but they're certainly not popular. We all know that. Yeah, in terms of whether they're actually sell up, I mean, I think a lot of fans, most fans, myself included, would be too happy to see them sell up. And I think where some of us fans often clash, Kyle, is not the sentiment or the feeling or the view towards the ownership. It's how we actually go about making things change. Um, so I respect all the guys who do anything. I respect the guys who protest, whether they go into the stadium or not, because at least they're doing something. I agree with you. In an ideal world, I mean, I think nothing hits the owners more than their pockets. And I know there's other fan groups who have encouraged people to not engage with sponsors and things like that. And I agree with that sentiment too, 100%, because yeah, hit them where it hurts in their pocket. It seems like for various reasons, probably not being in the Champions League is a big reason why the sponsorship deals are not as lucrative. They know they're not going to get that European level exposure at the in prime time kind of viewing, etc. So yeah, a lot of things, and with that political climate and the potential for a another downturn in the economy, like you talked about, maybe now is the time for the Glazers to sell up. I'd be only too happy for them to do it. And there's other things going on in the background as well. Of course, there's talk about the potential of a fan share scheme. I'm not aware of every single minute detail of that, and some of it's quite financial jargon, etc. So only the guys who are really heavily involved will know all the detail. But on the face of it, that seems to me like a pretty good idea, and I would like to see that certainly being taken forward, regardless of who our ownership is. I like that kind of model. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'd only be too happy to see the Glazers sell up, somebody else come in as the majority shareholder, and the club to be run a different way, not to be run in this debt-ridden way where they just take dividends out, like you talked about, pocketing money for selling players purely for themselves. I mean, that just feels like a cold and not nice way to run a football club, in my opinion. So I would be very happy to see an ownership that wouldn't do that type of thing. So yeah, maybe the times now. I agree with Gary Neville. I'm sure you do too, and I'm sure most fans do as well. That I think we'll be only too happy to see a change of ownership. So yeah, let's see how it plays out.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Rob Dawson of ESPN says that Manchester United are in talks to sign Benjamin Sesko and Marko Arnautovic. The two moves are considered separate. United remain in talks with RB Salzburg for Sesko. So, the fans are disappointed with the potential Arnautovic signing. The blow might be softened by signing a young striker at the same time. Yeah, I think we do need more than one addition, up front, because yeah, if you take out Ronaldo and you're left with Martial, Rashford, and Sancho. Sancho, terrific player. Martial, always injured. Rashford been out of form for 2 years, and then you're down to the likes of Alanga and stuff. So you haven't got much to work with. United do need, probably two or three reinforcements up front. So that would be a really good idea if we roll in two forwards, a very experienced one and a young up and coming striker. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's slightly more positive news, is that he's not the striker, that he's another striker. I think that would certainly be better. And we definitely need a younger striker, of course, as we talked about. I mean, in any position, you need to have replacements. You really want ideally probably four strikers at least, anyway, don't you? So that if you get two injured, yeah, you can replace them with another two. So you definitely want to have plenty of options. And if Martial is going to stay out of form as he had been for a long time, or be injured, and if Ronaldo's going to leave, and we've really only got Alanga and Rashford either doesn't want to play up front or isn't going to be able to kind of take chances as we've seen, then yeah, I can see why they would want to buy two more strikers to have more options. So that would be a little bit more positive. But again, who knows what's going to happen? Anything can happen. Nothing can happen. I just don't know.
Yeah, I anticipate it's going to be a chaotic end to the window. Like, I think there's probably going to make a big signing, probably De Jong, and then there's going to be some unusual signings up front, and that seems to be the case. um, so I always, at the start of the season, it's always interesting to see not only who starts the game, who's on the bench, but who didn't even make the bench, and that was very interesting. No Bailly and no Lindelof on the bench. That's it. And I was anticipating Bailly, being left out because I think he's going to move on to Roma or Sevilla. But Lindelof been left out of the squad completely. The defenders on the bench were Wan-Bissaka, Varane, and Malasaya. So could Lindelof potentially be on his way out? What do you think?
Good question, Kyle. Yeah. Like I say, watching the preseason games, there was a lot of experiments. Um, and yeah, the fact that he wasn't even on the bench, unless there's some other reason for it, injury or some other reason, then it sounds like Ten Hag maybe just doesn't fancy him. Um, Certainly, like we talked about earlier, I think that it's better to have two people who are kind of opposites. The fact that Maguire kept on as captain indicated that he was going to start or he was going to be first choice, because you're not going to have your captain on the bench. So it was always, I think, going to be a case of who's going to be the natural partner. And it sounds like he likes the look of Martinez or Varane or somebody else over Lindelof. So yeah, sounds like he's not fancied.
Well, if we go on today's selections, it seems if Maguire and Martinez is his first choice, which is what we anticipated, and Varane is his third choice defender, and then obviously Lindelof must be fourth choice, and then Bailly will probably be leaving the club. So yeah, at best Lindelof is fourth choice. At worst, he could be moved on. So yeah, and he can't complain. He's played over, was it 250 games now for the club, and I don't think he's good enough. Yeah, he's let us down quite a lot. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but he it's not a personality contest. This is top level football, and he just hasn't been good enough for United. The Maguire Lindelof partnership, which came together under Ollie, has been largely a disaster. Uh, you know, it lacks pace, obviously, but Lindelof as an individual isn't strong enough, isn't good enough in the air. He's slow. He doesn't get close enough. He gets bullied by strong centre forwards. So I think he'd be a good defender in La Liga, for example, in Spain. But I just don't think he's suited to the Premier League. And if his time's up, then I certainly won't complain.
Yeah, I think I remember way back even when he was signed from, I think it was Benfica that he played for, that people had said that it was gonna be a different scenario at United, because Benfica dominate most of the games they play, and they have lots of the ball, and he's almost like just kind of sits almost like a sweeper, and he's able to do the tidy stuff and spray the ball about, and you can see at United, he tried to almost do that at times, and he liked the ball at his feet and like to pick out a pass and those kind of things. But when he was really under pressure, people running directly at him, between him and Maguire, not complementing each other, he was always a bit of a liability, and that's the problem. And regardless of even whether he himself individually was good enough, I don't think that him and Maguire together are a good partnership. I don't think he has enough of what Maguire lacks. And like I said earlier, I think Martinez does. I can see Martinez making up for Maguire's shortcomings and vice versa. I didn't see that with Lindelof. They didn't gel overly well, and they were both kind of had the same feelings in terms of lack of pace, like you said, and positioning was poor sometimes. So yeah, I don't think he can really complain. I mean, I don't dislike him one bit. Like you say, he's probably a nice guy, and I think he is a good player in his own right, and he'd probably do very well in another team playing a slightly different with maybe a different partner. But yeah, I don't think that partnership's particularly great, and if and I can see, understand Ten Hag wants to keep Maguire as captain, etc. and stuff. Well, then I think it's probably the right thing that Lindelof doesn't play alongside him. So yeah, I think it's fair.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's about time Lindelof was relegated to fourth choice and not being an automatic selection as he was previously. Diogo Dallo said after the game, "I'm disappointed. I think we started really bad in the first 45 minutes. Second half, we got a little better, but it's still not enough to win a game like this." I'm sorry, Diogo, you're crap, son. You're part of the problem. You know, I'm sure you're a nice guy and you try hard, but you're just not good enough. You lack even the most basic defensive skills. Going forward, you're very much a mixed bag. So yeah, I could say it on previous podcasts. I think the entire back four probably needs replaced in time. We've obviously made two additions to the back four, and I think we need to focus on getting a new right back and probably another centre defender in time if things don't improve with Maguire. But the early signs are good for Maguire. Let's see, we're only one game in. But yeah, I imagine that in 3 years' time, if Ten Hag's still here, the team's going to have a very different look about it. You might see an entirely different 11, except for Sancho, maybe. But let's see.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like we've said, plenty of times before, you know, Ranić said open heart surgery, that was never going to happen in one transfer window or even in two, although I know some people said, oh, might only take a couple. I don't think that's the case. And I think Ten Hag knows that's not the case. And Ten Hag himself has said at Ajax, and I think when he came to United as well, that, he knows himself that you have to work with the squad that you have at the start and try and just get results out of them. And then in time, start building the squad that you really, really want. And I think that's what he's going to aim to do. So you're right, Kyle. I think in 2 or maybe 3 years' time, United's going to look, the first team's going to look very, very different to what it does now. But in the short term, he's going to have to try and get something out of what he has. Because it's a results business, and he's going to need to pick up some results. But I think we should back him, and hopefully, eventually the squad will look like what he wants it to look like, and it will be successful. But it's going to take time.
Okay, we'll leave it there for today. It's been fantastic to have you on the show again, Chris. Hopefully, the next time we're on, it's under better circumstances.
I hope so, Kyle. I hope so. It feels like there's been a lot of these not so good circumstances. It'd be nice to be on after a nice positive result. So, hopefully the next time that will be the case. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, please God. Okay, see you later.
Take care. Thank you.